Buongiorno, buonasera, benvenuti amici, welcome my friends. My name is Vincenzo and welcome to my channel, and that channel is Fountain Pen Therapy. Well, the Italian flag is right behind me, and as you know, I'm a proud Italian, also a proud Canadian. I got double citizenship, so I've got choices. I've got another beautiful pen to present to you folks. I don't know what it is, but early 2026, I've been fortunate enough to stumble upon or hunt for some Grail pens. And yes, indeed, I think this is another Grail pen. It's a pen from Aurora, one of my favorite Italian pen makers. Original designs, been around for a long, long time. I had the opportunity to meet one of the owners at a jewelry shop owned by a friend of mine here in Montreal, who distributes and sells retail Aurora pens, among other things, or among other pens. And I met with her, and she was very, very nice, and we discussed different pens, and I decided to get one of them. With her collaboration, and with the collaboration of my friend, owner of Caprice, and we shall show you some footage in a little while, I managed to get my hands on this pen. So without any further ado, Fountain Pen Therapy is proud to present the Aurora International. Hey guys, how are you doing? This is Vincenzo from Fountain Pen Therapy. I'm outside and I'm going to visit my favorite jeweler in Montreal. Let me just flip around and show you what I mean. This is the jewelry shop, but he's got a pen collection, or he sells two pens, Montegrappa and Aurora. And folks, I'm here to collect another. Yes, it's the ear of the Grail pens. It's another Aurora. So let's get into we'll go into the store together. We're gonna pull and just go in. So here it is, folks. First thing you notice is Montegrappa. Hey, take a look at that. Yeah, we're gonna get some of those. But he's got more than Montegrappa. He's got the Aurora right there. He's got beautiful watches. Hey, Carlo, there he is. He's the man. So give me a second. We're going to take a look at the pen. Okay. Yes, indeed. Here is the pen. Pen comes in. I don't know if you can appreciate how big this box is. Very nice, classic, vintage style packaging. It is a vintage style pen. It prides itself in being kind of a transition between, the past and the present. It has I think the trimmings and the look of a vintage, classic, with the technology of a modern pen, if you will. And that's, I think, their main slogan for this pen, which they call the Internazionale, which is translated into the International. It's a limited edition. This is number 413, I believe, out of 999, if I'm not mistaken. So there you have it. That's the packaging. It comes in a kind of a big cardboard, kind of a wrap, huge box. This is typical Aurora boxes. They're just different sizes for different pens. You open it up, and they all work the same way. It kind of a flap opens up, and you get an interior box. So we'll remove that from the picture. And here's that beautiful wooden box, very nice. And when you open it up, there you go. Very nice. It's on a soft bedding here. There's some ink that comes with it. Kind of a same motif. I will keep that under wraps. I will keep it wrapped up with the box. There is a booklet here giving you the, just a brochure, different pens, along with the international warranty, which we will leave in the little sleeve here. And here is the pen. Okay, so we'll shut that and I'll take a closer look at this pen. Here it is, folks. Now, let me just show you. Why is this not? Okay, I think I didn't close it properly. Here we are. It says there, Fabbrica Aurora Italiana. So it says manufacturer of pens, Aurora Italiana, or Italiana Serbatoio, which I means probably a piston filler. Nice black finials. There's the Aurora brand at the top of the finial. The numbered edition is right there. I don't know if you can see that, but there it is, number 413. I really like the trimmings. The trimmings are kind of, old vintage style trimmings. You've got that nice pattern, floral pattern, both around the ring there, the finial ring. Very nice ball at the end. The springy, it's got 3 parallel rings there for the center band. It's got one ring right there. It is a piston filler. It does not have a ink window, but we'll get to that in a second. Nice gold stamping there. I like also the resin does have this sparkly deepness to it. Okay. One thing that disappointed me in the pen, which is, when you buy a pen like this, you really buy it for many things. And I think the best feature of the pen is the nib, but we'll get to that in a second. One thing that disappointed me, and I think it's a general commentary on Aurora pens, is they're extremely light. I was under the impression that when I was buying this pen, I was buying something of a little more weight, but it's very light, and you almost get the sense that you didn't get your money's worth, if you know what I mean. And then when you start playing around with the pen, and when you put it into your hand and you start writing with that nib, you start to realize that that's where the value is. Now, in terms of how many turns to get to the nib, let's just see. That's 1, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, 1 3/4, 2. So it's 2 turns. Yeah, to reveal what I think is the star of the show, so to speak, it's that in-house, and this is an 18 karat Aurora nib. The Optimas that we will show you in a second have 14 karat, but this one, not all of them. Some of the limited edition may have an 18, but I think the more high-end offerings from Aurora would typically have an 18 karat nib. I'm very, very pleased to, looking forward to trying out the 18 karat nib and comparing it to the 14 karat. Sometimes it's not because it's 18 karat that's necessarily better, or springier, quite the contrary. Now, I have not been able to figure out whether or not this section unscrews. If I do get the answer from Aurora between now and the time that I will publish it, I will put an indication up on the screen, because it certainly would help if I can unscrew this section to kind of clean the piston filling system. Otherwise, I know the nib comes out, so it's not a problem. The piston system is a nice mechanism that works really nicely, smooth. You get the sense that there's quite a bit of distance there. It doesn't end right away. It takes you quite a little bit of time to close it up. So I've got the feeling, I can't see through it, obviously, that it probably has a very good, reservoir there with lots of ink capacity. It does not have an ink window, which is unfortunate. But we'll compare that to some of the other pens, and in fact, it may be a blessing that it doesn't have that ink window, and I'll explain in a few seconds when we get to the comparison. So that essentially is the pen. Now that's on the outside. Let's take a look at the cap a little more closely, just to see what's in there, to see whether or not, yeah, there is a step down that will seal right there. I don't know if you could see that. There is a step down. Yeah, there it is. That will assist in the sealing of this pen. I've never had a dry nib issue with Aurora pens. Once again, you can kind of tell here that there is, the resin is not the thickest in the world. In fact, it's so thin that you can almost see through it, which is a little disappointing for a pen of this price tag. I was just expecting a little bit more, let's just say. But I think overall I'm pleased. Being picky, I think it's just a function of the price. Given that these things can go anywhere between 900 and 1,200 euros and even more, you would think, I don't know, I was expecting a little more substantive weight and character to the resin, etc. I was also expecting it to be a little bit bigger, but we will see in the comparison that it's not, at the end of the day, it's not that big. One thing that I always have a problem with is how to make sure that lines up at the end of the day. I don't know if there's a particular way to do it. There it is. So if you start off that way, it ends that way. Good. I'm glad I figured that one out. I always have problems with that. So there you have it. That's the pen on the outside. We'll take a look at some comparisons, do measurements, and then I'm looking forward to that writing sample. And now I've added to all my reviews, we'll compare, that nib to many other or to other nibs that I find relevant. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back. Okay, so we're back for the pen comparison. Of course, here's the subject pen. This is an Aurora 88. This is an Aurora 88P, an Aurora Talentum. This is the Aurora Optima, I would say to you, their flagship model. And this is, just to give you a comparison, this is a Leonardo Momento Zero, not the Momento Zero Grande, but the Momento Zero. And as you could see, it is bigger than the other offerings from Aurora, and it's approximately the same size as a Momento Zero standard size, not the Grande. So it's not a big pen, I would say to you. It's a pretty medium-sized pen in weight and in length, I would say to you. So there you have the pens capped. Okay, I'm back. Here are the pens uncapped, if you will. You can see that the Talentum, the 88, and the subject pen are approximately the same size when uncapped. The Optima is much smaller. I think the Optima is best used post-it, frankly, and we'll take a look at that in a second. It's slightly bigger than the Momento Zero uncapped, if you will. Now, one of the things that I did want to mention, which I find it's just too bad, and I'm not sure whether this applies to their other nibs as well. I preferred the old styled nibs that they had. They had a much more elaborate engraving, if you will. But I think these are probably, I'm not sure if this is like, to reflect the vintage look of their nibs or their modern look. I don't have enough of them to be able to compare. Let me just see. This is another Aurora that I purchased recently. This is the Flex. And yes, this has the new Aurora stamping, I've got a feeling. This is an older, almost vintage 88. So because it has one of these very unique nibs that I'll get into in a second. So this is probably their old style stamping on the nibs. I prefer that one, frankly, than this, if this is the new one. But it doesn't take away from the fact that it is 18 karat. So we shall see how that performs in a second. We'll be right back with the pens posted. Here are the pens posted. And yes, it does post, and I'll show you how comfortable it is in a second. You can see, however, that it's not a very deep poster as compared to the others, and that explains why it's the longest in the set. But in terms of, again, because the pen is so light, it doesn't really, back weight. It's a little awkward because it is at the tip there, but it certainly doesn't cause a balance problem. I think it's best to use this pen uncapped. Uncapped, you have plenty of size there. It does have that flare. So in terms of comfort, very comfortable. And I can see how the lightness can be both a like and a dislike. I guess a dislike because you're expecting a little more when you pay €1,000. But in terms of writing experience and certainly long writing sessions, this pen will work like a charm, and there, I guess, lies the advantage. One thing about the posting, it does sit on that piston. So my feeling is that if you're not careful, you will activate the piston, but it sits there nicely. So you just have to be careful when you cap it or post it and unpost it so that you don't turn that knob and cause a mess. But there you have the pens posted. We'll show some measurements and then the writing samples. Okay, so we're back for the writing sample. First of all, the ink that I chose is a Mont Blanc ink. I realize I don't have Aurora green, otherwise I would have used that. So I'm going to go with this Mont Blanc Irish green, a very classic, beautiful green ink. Here's the swatch of the ink, Mont Blanc Irish green. So I think that this will be an excellent match. So that is going to be the ink. As far as the paper is concerned, this is Tomo River paper, Wonderland 222 notebook that I've been using this year for the writing samples of my review, or at least most of them. And so without any further ado, let's get into it. One thing I forgot to mention, but you saw it on my reel, my introduction reel, is that nib is not the nib, the feed is an ebonite feed. So that, of course, helps in the flow. So let's do this. Very nice, comfortable pen. Oh, yeah. I mean, you know right away what you're dealing with. This is the Aurora International. And it's the green. They do come in different colors. I've seen it in black and orange. Okay. The nib is a number 6, 18 karat Aurora medium nib. The ink is Mont Blanc Irish green.
And the paper is Tomo River Paper, Wonderland. Two. Okay. Now, first thing, smoothness. Folks, this is where you say to yourself, okay, now I understand why this pen sells at the price that it sells. It's just very, very smooth. It is, I think, a perfect combination between quiet, smooth, and a little bit of feedback. It's just perfect. Not too much feedback, but just enough to know that you're writing. There's that scribing sound that you're writing with a fountain pen, but it doesn't go into the paper. It doesn't scratch. The flow is not affected. The nib is not sticky. It's just smooth. Wetness, well, I can tell you, folks, that the wetness is just outstanding, as you can see. Okay? Bounce. I can definitely feel the softness. I don't know if it's from necessarily a huge bounce, but you can tell that it does have. Now this is light, and this is, if I push, I think you can get some line variation, but it's a medium. It's not flex, nor is it a semi-flex. It just has a very subtle softness to it, which adds a lot to the writing experience. Consistency, very constant. This pen will never let you down. My experience with Aurora pens, and you'll see that. Yeah, I'm going to compare it to other Aurora pens I have in my collection. I just took out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pens, 7 Auroras, and I just tested them before I came back on the video, just to make sure they all wrote and were all filled. And you know what? I haven't used them in months, and they just write like as if I just inked them. So very, very nice. Now, in terms of reverse writing, yeah, incredible. I get an extra fine line, and it's 10 on 10. One of the best reverse writers I probably have in my collection. There you have it. Now, let's get to likes and dislikes. Let's get rid of the dislikes right away. I think I've mentioned it. No ink window. But let me tell you why this may be actually a good thing. I have heard, and of course this is not scientific, but it certainly happened to me. This is one of my Optimas. I have heard or read that because the ink window, this system of, I guess in the manufacturing design, the pen has a tendency to snap here. There must be some fragility there because of the ink window. And I guess it makes sense because you're going from a solid bar, then you've got to create a step down and another piece, and then connect it to the piece, to connect it to the nib section. So there may be some fragility there, or you're creating I'm not an engineer, but a spot where potentially it can crack on you. And this one certainly did. I had to return it to Aurora or to the distributor in North America who took care of. I don't think they replaced it. I think I can see some of the repair work. I think they just glued it back. But so far, so good. So maybe it's a blessing that I don't have an ink window on this one. The other one is that I find it extremely light. But there again, that could be an advantage if you're thinking about long-term or long writing sessions. So both of these dislikes can actually be likes, if you will, at the end of the day. In terms of likes, of course, the design is vintage classic. The build quality is very good. But the highlight is the nib. I mean, folks, this nib is 10 on 10. The materials, they're not, this resin is not the greatest resin that I've seen. I give it maybe a 6.5 on 10 because there's nothing, overly outstanding about it, if you know what I'm saying. The depthness is created by those sparkles, but otherwise, it's pretty ordinary, I would say to you, okay? Value. Look, it's 1,000 euros, so I cannot give it a 10 on 10. I would say it's 7 on 10, salvaged by that nib. So, the price could be a potential dislike, and not everybody is going to spend 1,000 euros, even with that nice nib. But it is a classic, limited edition, Aurora in-house nib pen. So that's what you're paying for, I think. That's what you're paying for. You're paying for its reputation, for the fact that this company has been around for I don't know how many decades. So there you have it. That's my review. What we'll do now is I'm just going to set up, and actually we're all set to go. Why don't we compare that nib to other Aurora nibs that I have in my collection? So that is a 18 karat medium. This one on the 88 is an 18 karat, I believe 18 karat. No, it's not. This is a 14 karat. So this is the Aurora. Look at that. I mean, Aurora 88. I'm going to say vintage, and I'll explain to you why. Fine. And I don't have the timing of this, the timeline, but I don't know if you could see this, but let me compare two fine nibs, both on this Optima Sole Mio and on this 88. I don't know if you can see, but the 88, the nib is very pointed, very pointy as opposed to the Optima. The Optima has wider shoulders here. They used to make their nibs, and because it was so peaked, so pointy, it gave you a little more bounce. But they discovered that because of that bounce, if you're not careful, you can kind of spring that nib, or it became a little more fragile. So I think they since changed that. So I thought I had a flex nib, and when I compare it to my Optima Flex, you can see why. Again, the flex is in the fact that the shoulders are thinner or narrower, and there's a point there. So it's almost identical. So it gives me a very similar writing experience, I must say. Although I think that this flex nib, we'll get to it in a second, is really is not meant to spring, if you know what I mean. So, but this pen I really enjoy because of the softness. So if you can get this Aurora, used, and forgive me, I don't know what year those nibs were still manufactured, but I think it'd be really, really nice if you can do that. So that's the 88. That's the fine, and you can tell there is a difference. This is a 14 karat on the Talentum. So this is the Aurora Talentum. And this one has a 14 karat medium nib. I would say to you that this is almost writing like a broad, and it's less soft than the 18 karat. Sometimes you get more softness and a little less bounce. This is stiffer. Sometimes you get more bounce and softness with a 14 karat than you do with an 18 karat. But in this case, I think the 18 karat does have, at least that's the sense I get, a little more bounce. This is the Optima Flex, and it is a fine. By the way, the gauge of the nib is there. You can see it on the ebonite feed. So this is the Aurora Optima. It's the Optima design, but it's got that flex nib, and it's a flex fine. I mean, it's not a huge flex, but I think if you know what you're doing, you can certainly feel the line variation and that spring quality. It's much more than you do on that nib or on the regular 14 karat or 18 karat nibs. Speaking of which, this is the, I think I put the wrong cap on the wrong pen. Let me just see. Yeah, this is the 88 that goes there. This is the Aurora Optima Sole Mio, and it has a fine 14 karat nib. Comparable, though, I gotta say, very, very comparable in terms of springiness to the 18 karat. The Talentum, I felt a little stiffer, but this fine has a very soft, the softness of this nib is very comparable to the Subject pen. There you have it. I'm not sure that the Nero, this is the Nero, has any ink. Let's just see. Yes, it does. And this is a, 14 karat fine nib. I think I have to start putting these pens more often into my rotation because they're very precise writers. They write really nicely. They don't let you down. And maybe they will be one of my themes in one of my weapons for the following week. Did want to show you this one. This is kind of a vintage Aurora 88P. It is a hooded nib. So this is the, I don't know if it has any ink. Yes, it does. Very, very springy. Aurora 88P. And it's got that hooded, springy, fine nib. Fun writing experience. Probably the best hooded nib pen that I have in my collection. And I have several Chinese. I don't enjoy hooded nibs necessarily, but this one, I must say, is very, very nice. I bought this one in Rome in kind of an antique shop. I saw it in the window and I said, whoop, made him an offer and snatched it up. Very nice. So there you have, there you have the review of my Aurora International, or Internazionale as they say. I think a beautiful addition to my collection. A little pricey. And that's, there I have to thank my friend Carlo at Caprice, who did make me a considerable discount. We were friends for a long time, and I appreciated it. And that's why I think what made this worthwhile. But shop around, because you can find this pen at various price points. Some are very exaggerated, will go into 1,003, 1,004 euros. I think the market, the MRSP is much higher than, you can probably find it for even less than 1,000 euros if you look. And if you can find it used, I think it's a beautiful addition because of that nib. So there you have it. Thank you very much for joining me. Grazie molto. Aurora. Got to tell you, one of the best pen makers in the world. Definitely. There is no doubt in my mind. Ciao.